Greetings, my loves. I am Love Loyal, and welcome back to my channel, HADAR, the Love Beacon Restored. I hope you all are doing well, and I want to send you peace, love, and blessings. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. In our last video review, we discussed certain pain that is caused in your youth by someone near and dear to you. And that pain not really being addressed or resolved or soothed continues in your adulthood when you have encounters with other individuals that remind you of things that happened to your past, and it gives you an automatic response or automatic defense mechanism to divert or encourage the conflict with that particular individual. So that was the importance of Reveal Part 1, to just conjure up all of those things that have happened to you as a child or in your experience that was so hurtful to your heart, caused you so much emotional damage, that you record those moments in your life down on paper. So if you have time, get a sheet of paper, or even if you don't have time, if you have the smartphones. I mean, there's so many things to make it easier for you to work on yourself and keep track of what's going on in your life. So if you can just record an incident at work or record an incident with someone, and how you made it feel. How did that experience make you feel right then in that occurrence? And is it related to something, or is it a reminder of a feeling that happened to me in my past? So the first column will look something like things that trigger emotional pain that happened in my youth. And then this column would be current circumstances of conflict that I have with people now, and how or what feeling is connected to. You know, what is it connected to, a feeling or something that happened in column 1 or in my previous life. And then when we go to the reveal part of 3, it's going to be, you know, how do I cope? What do I do to get back or soothe or heal that part of my soul? Because it has to be nourished. When people have hurt your feelings, if you don't get resolution to it, you tend to shut down and create a defense mechanism on how you're going to deal with it, because it caused you so much pain in the past. So I wanted to also share like a personal experience and give you all examples of what I mean by this without going too personal. So for example, I grew up in a very traditional household. My mother and father came from North Carolina, and they moved up here to New York City in their 20s and started a family. And started a new family, moving from the Bronx to Queens to provide and take care for a family of 5. So I'm the 4th sibling. I have 1 sister and 3 brothers. And when you come from a large family, certain things don't always work out the way you want them to, you know. And because of economic conditions, you know, where you live, how much food and shelter you're able to obtain from the income that you was getting in your household around that period of time, that 1960s period of time, was a juggle to get your family up and running in a big city. So I am very blessed to have come from the family and been raised in such a traditional, wholesome, together family. And although there are things that happens in everybody's household, like, you know, basically everybody's household is dysfunctional on some level of dysfunction according to the masses, that you're going to get hurt by your family, your friends, unintentionally. And sometimes when you're open to receiving all the love in the world at such a young and tender age, when you have negative encounters with those who are supposed to care for you, who's supposed to give you that love, and it's missing, that's painful. And it's a pain that I did not have to suffer, but there are individuals who weren't raised with their mothers and fathers in the household. You know, the condition in which they was living was strenuous. Some didn't even, you know, weren't even raised in their family. They may have been adopted, you know, from a family, and they have no clue as to where their family who brought them into this existence is. And then they're wondering constantly, you know, what happened to them that made their, you know, parents leave them behind. So I didn't have to deal with that, you know. But ultimately, you know, as I like to say, stress is stress, and what someone else can handle, the next person may not be able to handle. So generally speaking, we all have pros and cons to how we were raised, and struggles too. You know, at this day and age, I don't think anyone is exempt from having issues with their family and friends. So the most important thing to do is to just connect with those feelings, understand the conditions of those actions, and just try to find a level of harmony in your spirit that allows you to be progressive and no longer be reminded by those negative situations that you've had in the past. So let's do that. Let's write that down on a piece of paper. Again, that's what has happened to me as a child. What are some severe instances in my life that I can record down on a piece of paper that have impaired my emotions so deeply that it carried on into my adult life. So that's the first column. Then in the second column is write the incident in which you have today. You know, somebody cursed you out, or somebody disrespected you in some sort of way, or you lost your job, or your child is sick, and it caused you to have a feeling of whatever the feeling was. But in those circumstances, we really want to focus on the ones that really hurt you and remind you of things that happened to you in your past. So the second column, you're just going to write the incident, and you're going to say, is this incident somehow related to an occurrence in my life? Okay. And then that's all. Just going to keep a record of that. So that's kind of the worksheet or the homework or the thought to carry on in your days to come, just to find out if anything is triggering something in your spirit that reminds you of something that happened to you in your youth. Now, I know you guys, I like to keep the videos short, and that's why I will continue to repeat things over again so it really sticks in your head. Even if you walk off for the rest of your day, you have a concept of what it is that we're trying to do here. And I also wanted to just tell you guys, the other day I took a success blockers personality exam, and what it does is it helps you to identify what is your success blocker. So I took that quiz or what have you, and the success blocker was, I am not worthy. So immediately I'm like, I'm not worthy. Like, no, I know I'm worthy. But then when I continued to read further on, it said that there are certain things that did or did not happen to you in your youth that you quantified as you not being worthy. For an example, if there was another child, another sibling, or another person, or a whole entire family that was constantly being praised and worshiped and praised and worshiped, but when you received your certifications and your royalties and you're moving up in life, no one's really congratulating you from when you were young. So you associated with that moment in your life somehow with that you're not worthy because you didn't get the recognition that you needed when you was a child. You didn't get the adornment. So that's one example. Another example could be if you've been a victim of some sort of violence in your household, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, neglect, however. And because of what happened to you as a child in your relationship with your parents or their lack thereof, now when you get into new relationships with people, your mate, and some things that they do remind you of your significant other. Some things remind you of something that you've already graduated from. You know, maybe you came from an abusive relationship and you tried to just, suppress those feelings that you had with a child, hoping that this person would get better and focusing on the good parts. The fact doesn't remain that you was hurt in a similar situation like this, and you put yourself into those situations again. We all do that, and we continue to live in a cycle of pain and suffering because we put ourselves back into situations that were familiar to our childhood. Now, just because they're familiar to our childhood does not suggest for a moment that we should subject ourselves to it in our adulthood. So why do we? And my response from my experiences, because there was nobody to stop me, because it was easier, it was comfortable, it was something that was to be expected because you knew from previous experiences how to deal with that type of person. When in hindsight, you shouldn't have been in that type of space to begin with, but you're there because you didn't get any healing. You didn't meditate on how it made you feel, cry it out, and do a process to rid yourself of that connection to that emotion anymore, that dreadful moment. So, and it's a daily thing, everybody, we all have to work towards constant reminders and being mindful of triggers. Just like one of my triggers for me is I've always been a petite woman. And ever since I was little, it was just told in my head that, you're so small, you're so small, you're so tiny. That I started to already have a lot of aggression and, somebody, I guess would say the Napoleon or whatever, like the short person or a small person's temper. And that's kind of how I grew up. I grew up with the whole mindset that just because I'm a girl doesn't mean that I can't do this and I can't do that. So in my years of growing up, I built up a wall to protect myself because it was almost frowned upon to be something else because everybody had already decided for me. Or at least in my mind, that's what I thought. So in growing up and going through the circumstances and being reminded of things that happened to me in my past, I just started to connect the dots. Like, hold on. Like, why am I getting so upset at this situation? It's not even that serious. It don't even hold any weight. And I started to ask myself certain questions. Is it really that important? And it did remind me of certain characteristics in my behavior when I was a child, because I always used to be so aggressive, like wanting it, and it was all because of what or how I was told to be, and I had to just kind of let go of that and just be more gentle, be less rough and aggressive. Now, not to say that I don't still enjoy some of the adventure in my life. I'll say the adventure or the fun in my life. But I definitely am able to identify, certain triggers in me, certain things people say and moods, and how my attitude's about to swift or change or come off weird to somebody, all because of something that happened in my past, So you just have to constantly remind yourself is that that's not who you are anymore. you know, and you're only that person if you choose to be. You know, there's plenty of people walking around here, they're living in the past of things that's happened to them, and they're not ever even able to be progressive people, you know. And I really feel bad, because guess what? I used to be one of those people. I didn't see any light in the darkness. You know, I only saw my own suffering, you know, and I had to open my heart, and I had to, you know, look around in the world and really understand what was going on, and how the circumstances that may have impacted my mother and father is why things played out the way that they played out in life, you know, and how some things you can have some control over and other things that you cannot, you know. So what are you going to allow to maintain in your system that's going to prevent you from being your full self and being happy and being able to love and live and let go? So please continue to stick with me, guys. I really want you guys to work on what I mentioned earlier, and trust and believe that I will be showing you guys my reference material as well as my own Bibles. I say Bibles like it's more like literally a junk drive for me, where I just write down a bunch of information. I just write down my feeling and what I'm gonna do about it, because that's how I move on. And that's what we're gonna do in the next segment. The next segment is gonna be, okay, what are some things that I can do to rid myself of some of this pain? What can I do to relieve myself of some of this pain? Because it's taking up too much time, space, and energy in my soul, and it's preventing me from being the most happiest person I can be. So please stay with me. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful day. It's peaceful.